Bear was enjoying a peaceful afternoon reading a book by the fireplace. Everything was calm, the gentle crackle of the fire and the chirping of birds accompanied the moment. But suddenly, the door burst open, and Masha stormed in like a hurricane, her braids bouncing and her mischievous smile lighting up the room. "Bear, Bear. Look what I found," she exclaimed, waving an old scroll. Bear sighed, closing his book. He knew his piece had come to an end. "What's that, Masha?" he asked. Masha, her eyes sparkling with excitement, unrolled the scroll in front of him. "It's a treasure map, Bear. Let's go find it." Bear examined the map skeptically, but Masha's enthusiasm was so contagious he couldn't help but feel curious. Let's see what we find," he said at last. Masha jumped up excitedly. Thus began their grand adventure. Masha began explaining how she had found the map in the attic while looking for a hat. "It was hidden inside an old, dusty box," she exclaimed. She carefully unrolled the scroll, revealing a hand-drawn forest, mountains, and a large red X, marking the treasure's location. "See? This is real," Masha insisted. Bear, though skeptical, noticed that the drawing resembled some places near their forest. "It could be a prank, Masha," he said. But she was already determined. "It doesn't matter. If there's adventure, we must go," she replied firmly. Although Bear preferred his quiet afternoon, he knew he couldn't stop Masha. "All right, but we'll prepare properly before leaving," he said. Masha clapped joyfully, already dreaming of what they might find at the end of their journey. Bear still had doubts about embarking on a treasure hunt. "Masha, it could just be an old, meaningless drawing," he said, rolling the map back up. But Masha wasn't giving up. "Bear, imagine how fun it will be. We could find a chest full of gold or giant candies," she exclaimed excitedly, waving her hands to emphasize her words. Seeing that Bear was still hesitant, Masha tried a new tactic. She stood up, gave him her best sad face, and said, "Don't you like going on adventures with me, Bear?" Bear, unable to resist her pleading look, finally gave in. "All right, we'll go. But first, we're making a list of what we need to stay safe," he said seriously. Masha jumped for joy. "I knew you'd say yes," she shouted, running off to grab her backpack while Bear sighed in resignation. Masha darted back and forth, stuffing random items into her backpack, a magnifying glass, a teddy bear, cookies, and even a jump rope. "We're ready, Bear," she declared. But Bear, ever practical, checked his own list: flashlight, sturdy rope, first aid kit, and a compass. "Masha, we can't just bring toys. We need useful things for the adventure," he said, pulling out the less essential items from her bag. Masha puffed out her cheeks but then smiled. "Fine, but I'm keeping my cookies." As they organized everything, the excitement in the air was tangible. "This is going to be amazing, Bear," Masha whispered, looking at the map once more. Finally, with their backpacks ready and their hearts full of anticipation, they set off into the unknown, ready to uncover the forest's secrets. The forest was full of life, birds singing, leaves whispering in the wind, and sunlight streaming through the branches. Masha led the way, clutching the map excitedly, while Bear followed behind, carefully observing every detail of the path. "Look, Bear, that rock looks like a turtle," Masha said, pointing out everything that caught her eye. Bear smiled, knowing that for her, everything was an adventure. They crossed a small stream where Masha stopped to play in the water, splashing Bear. "Come on, don't fall behind," she called, full of energy. As they moved forward, the map seemed to come alive in her hands. Each step brought them closer to their destination, and Masha's excitement only grew. "What do you think we'll find, Bear?" she asked. "We'll find out together," he replied with a smile. Suddenly, as they walked, the hare appeared from the bushes and snatched one of the cookies Masha was holding. "Hey, that's mine!" Masha shouted, chasing after it. The hare, with its usual cheekiness, hopped from side to side, leading them to a clearing that wasn't on the map. Bear tried calling Masha back, but she was determined to retrieve her cookie. When they finally caught up, they discovered something surprising: a rock with strange inscriptions and a symbol that matched the map. "Bear, this is important." Masha exclaimed, completely forgetting her annoyance with the hare. Bear studied the inscriptions closely, while Masha hugged the hare, now their new ally on the adventure. Bear examined the rock's inscriptions while Masha bounced around impatiently. "What does it say, Bear? Is it a clue?" she asked excitedly. After studying it closely, Bear realized the markings formed a pattern that seemed to point toward the sun. "It says to follow the path where water and sunlight meet," Bear explained. Masha frowned, trying to understand. "That must be a river or a lake," she suddenly exclaimed. With the new clue in mind, they pressed on, now even more excited. Masha led the way, while Bear ensured they didn't stray too far off course. "This is so thrilling, Bear. We're getting closer to the treasure," Masha shouted. After following the clue, they arrived at an old suspension bridge spanning a deep canyon. The bridge was worn, with broken planks and frayed ropes swaying in the wind. "Do we have to cross that?" Masha asked, a little scared but also intrigued. Bear, always cautious, inspected the bridge and said they could cross carefully. Masha took the first step, her heart pounding with every creak of the boards. When she was halfway across, one of the planks broke beneath her feet, and she let out a scream. Luckily, Bear was close and caught her with his strong arms, helping her across the rest of the bridge. "That was amazing," Masha exclaimed, quickly regaining her excitement. "Come on, Bear, the treasure must be close." After crossing the bridge, they found a beautiful clearing filled with bright flowers that seemed to glow under the sunlight. "Look, Bear. These flowers are amazing, I've never seen anything like this," Masha exclaimed, running to touch one. As she did, the flowers began to light up, forming a glowing path deeper into the forest. "I think they're showing us the way," Masha said excitedly. Bear observed cautiously but decided to follow the lights. As they moved forward, the flowers dimmed behind them, as if ensuring they wouldn't get lost. "This place is magical, Bear," Masha whispered, completely in awe. Each step filled them with wonder, and the mystery of the treasure seemed closer than ever. As they followed the glowing path, Masha noticed a tree filled with even larger flowers. "Look at those flowers, Bear," she said, running toward the tree. But she didn't notice a beehive hanging from one of the branches. When Masha touched the flowers, the bees buzzed out angrily. "Run, Bear, bees!" Masha shouted as the bees chased them. Bear quickly grabbed Masha, and they ran together until they reached a river, where they managed to lose the bees. Both collapsed on the shore, breathing with relief. "That was close," Masha said, laughing. "But the flowers were beautiful, weren't they?" Bear just shook his head, while she was already planning their next move in the adventure. After their encounter with the bees, Masha and Bear arrived at a small hut made of branches and leaves. There, they met an elderly hedgehog with a long mossy beard. "Are you looking for the treasure?" the hedgehog asked softly. Masha nodded eagerly, showing him the map. The hedgehog examined the scroll and, after some thought, pulled out an old compass from his burrow. "This will help you find the right path," he explained. Masha carefully took the compass, fascinated by its design. "Thank you, Mr. Hedgehog," she said cheerfully. Bear thanked the hedgehog, and they bid him farewell, knowing the compass would be crucial for their next clue. With the compass in hand, Masha and Bear continued their journey until they reached a wide river with clear waters. "How will we cross it, Bear?" Masha asked, watching the strong current. Bear looked around and found an old boat tied to the shore, though it seemed a bit worn. "We can use this to cross, but we'll need to row carefully," he explained. They climbed into the boat and, using branches as oars, began to make their way across the river. Masha, excited, pretended to be a captain, giving orders to Bear as he rowed patiently. But a strong current pushed them off course, almost crashing them into some rocks. With his experience, Bear managed to steer the boat safely to the other side. "That was like a roller coaster," Masha said, laughing. Bear sighed in relief as Masha eagerly looked ahead, ready to continue. After crossing the river, the trail led them to a dark and silent forest. The tall trees blocked the sunlight, and everything seemed mysterious. "This is like a fairy tale," Masha said, though she walked closer to Bear than usual. Suddenly, they heard the sound of branches cracking and froze in place. "Who's there?" Masha asked loudly. A pair of glowing eyes appeared in the bushes, but it turned out to be just a curious owl watching them. Bear smiled, reassuring Masha, though the atmosphere remained unsettling. They used the compass to stay on track and carefully moved forward, following the marked path. Despite her fear, Masha's excitement didn't fade. "I'm sure we're close to the treasure," she whispered, clutching the map tightly. The trail led them to a steep hill covered in leaves and roots. "This is going to be a challenge," Masha said, looking up at the top with determination. Bear, cautious as ever, suggested they climb slowly to avoid slipping. Masha, as impatient as always, started climbing quickly but soon lost her footing and tumbled backward onto a pile of leaves. "I'm okay," she shouted, laughing as Bear helped her up. This time, they climbed together, with Masha holding onto Bear whenever she felt like she might fall. When they reached the top, they were greeted by a spectacular view of the forest and a new clue carved into a rock. "We did it, Bear. We're getting closer and closer," Masha said, breathless but excited. Bear smiled, proud of their progress. Following the clue from the hill, they arrived at the entrance of a dark, moss-covered cave. Masha peeked inside, trying to see, but the darkness was impenetrable. "We'll need the flashlight, Bear," she said, rummaging through her backpack. With the light in hand, they entered slowly, their footsteps echoing off the damp walls. Inside the cave, they found ancient wall paintings and markings that matched the map. "This is like an adventure movie," Masha exclaimed, amazed. Suddenly, a bat flew over their heads, making Masha scream and hide behind Bear. Laughing, Bear reassured her, and together they ventured further into the cave, where they found a symbol pointing to their next destination. After leaving the cave, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky with shades of orange. "We should camp here, Bear," Masha suggested, tired but excited about what awaited them the next day. Bear, always prepared, began gathering branches to start a fire while Masha explored the area for large leaves and stones to create a comfortable base. Once the fire was lit, they sat around it, sharing some cookies Masha had brought. "This feels like a sleepover, but in the forest," she said, laughing. Bear nodded, enjoying the warmth of the fire. Masha pulled out the map and, under the flickering light of the flames, studied the next clue. "Tomorrow, we'll find the treasure, I can feel it," she exclaimed before curling up next to Bear and falling asleep under a starry sky. At dawn, they resumed their journey, guided by the compass. However, the path led them to a narrow ravine. "Be careful, Bear, this looks dangerous," Masha warned, proceeding cautiously. Suddenly, her foot slipped on some loose rocks, and she began sliding downward. "Help," she shouted as Bear rushed to grab her. With his strength, he stopped her fall and pulled her back up to the trail. "That was thrilling," Masha said, still breathless but laughing as usual. Bear looked at her with a mix of concern and relief, ensuring they moved even more cautiously. "I promise not to slip again, Bear," Masha said, though she was already looking for the next challenge on the horizon. At last, they arrived at a clearing with a large rock in the center, just as the map had indicated. "We're here, Bear," Masha exclaimed excitedly. However, as they approached, two large birds with gleaming feathers and watchful eyes descended from nearby branches. "I think they're guarding the treasure," Masha whispered, observing them curiously. The birds let out loud squawks, blocking their way to the rock. Remembering adventure stories, Masha decided to try communicating with them. She pulled a piece of fruit from her backpack and offered it as a peace offering. The birds eyed her carefully before taking the fruit and, with a final squawk, stepped aside. "It worked, Bear," Masha said, running toward the rock. Now they just had to figure out how to open the treasure's hiding place. In front of the rock, Masha and Bear found a small opening with engraved symbols that matched the map. "This must be it," Masha said excitedly. They tried to move the rock, but it didn't budge. "Maybe there's a trick," Masha suggested, studying the symbols. When she pressed the correct one, the rock slowly shifted, revealing an ancient wooden chest with golden inlays. "The treasure?" Masha shouted, jumping with joy. With effort, Bear opened the chest, revealing shining jewels, old coins, and a strange golden key. What does this key unlock? Masha wondered aloud, while Bear looked on with a mix of awe and satisfaction. The treasure was more valuable than they had ever imagined. With the treasure in hand, Masha and Bear began their journey back home, bathed in the light of the afternoon sun. This was the best adventure ever, Bear, Masha exclaimed, holding the golden key as her new lucky charm. Along the way, they reminisced about every thrilling moment, the dangerous bridge, the magical flowers, and the mysterious cave. Upon arriving at Bear's cabin, Masha placed the chest in a special spot, promising to uncover the mystery of the key. But that'll be another adventure, she said, winking at Bear, who simply smiled, happy to have shared such an unforgettable experience with his little friend.